Welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to go over the Baldur's Gate 3 early access races, their racial features, and then I'm going to talk about which of the early access classes goes best with each of these races. All of the races in this video have been previously confirmed to be in early access, but we don't quite know all of the sub-races, so I'm going to speculate a little bit on that. If you guys end up enjoying this video, please subscribe. There's much more Baldur's Gate 3 content on the way. Thank you so much to my most recent patrons, Jacob and Caleb, and also thanks again, Lev, and thank you, Doug, for becoming a channel member. I haven't even said anything about my Patreon or my channel memberships yet, so you guys did that on your own, and I really appreciate it. Also, links to the Wolf Apparel merchandise store will be below. Not all of the products will be showing, but if you actually click into the store, you'll be able to see everything, and links to my Twitter and my Discord server will be below. I'm going to have to cut down this intro a little bit because this is taking too long. Let's get right into it. Here are the 6 classes that will be available initially in early access. For each race, I will recommend classes from these choices only: Fighter, Rogue, Warlock, Wizard, Cleric, and Ranger. I will do another video in the future comparing all of the races to all of the classes when we get some more information. This video is specifically tailored towards the initial launch of early access. Also, please remember that you can play any race with any class that you want. It's all about having fun. I'm just going to recommend the classes that take the most advantage of the racial features. The Githyanki are a race of astral plane dwellers and survivors of a long enslavement from the Mind Flayers. They are outstanding warriors and trained with silver blades and flying on red dragons. They should offer an interesting playthrough in Baldur's Gate 3, for a Githyanki's life mission is to destroy all Mind Flayers, and we know that Mind Flayers will certainly play a role in the plot of Baldur's Gate 3. The Githyanki's racial features include a +1 to intelligence and a +2 to strength. They also gain Decadent Mastery, which allows you to learn an additional language of your choice and gives you proficiency with one skill or tool of your choice as well. That's always a nice bonus to gain. You also get Martial Prodigy, which gives you proficiency in light and medium armor, as well as short swords, long swords, and great swords. Another racial feature that isn't displayed, but we have seen evidence of it being in the game, is Githyanki Psionics. Githyanki Psionics will do multiple things. It will allow you to know the Mage Hand cantrip, which can be a lot of fun and inspire a lot of creativity, but you also learn how to make Mage Hand invisible. Now you can manipulate objects and open doors from a distance without anyone even knowing that your Mage Hand is there. You also can shove enemies off cliffs with Mage Hand. When you reach level 3, Githyanki Psionics allows you to cast Jump, but since we all have tadpoles in our brains and can jump further than normal already, that might not be as much of a benefit, at least initially. When you reach level 5, you can use Githyanki Psionics to cast the Misty Step spell, which is a teleportation spell. For early access classes, the most obvious choice is the Fighter class, for the Githyanki's +2 to strength goes great with the strength-based fighter. Even more specifically, the Eldritch Knight Fighter subclass is the perfect fit, for you get that +1 to intelligence as well, which can help an Eldritch Knight with certain spells. Another early access class that could work well would be a frontline melee-based Cleric. Tieflings are human-based, plain-touched native outsiders infused with the touch of the fiendish plains. Their evil ancestors could be many generations removed, and they are not predisposed to evil alignments. The subrace of the Asmodeus Tiefling is bound to Nessus, the deepest layer of the Hells, and they wield fire and darkness like the notorious Archdevil himself. It seems likely that there will be other subraces for the Tiefling, whether in early access or not, I'm not sure, but maybe we'll get to see the Feral Tiefling as well. The Asmodeus Tiefling's racial features include a +1 to intelligence and a +2 to charisma. They also gain a racial feature known as Hellish Resistance, which gives you resistance to fire damage, and as most of you know, Larian likes their fire in games. Other racial features that will likely accompany the Tiefling will be Dark Vision, which allows you to see in dim lighting, and when in dark conditions you can see as if it was dim. This can be a very useful feature to have. Infernal Legacy will allow you to learn the Thaumaturgy cantrip, which allows you to create various effects such as creating a tremor in the ground, or creating an instantaneous sound originating from a point of your choice that can do things such as distract enemies. When you reach level 3, Infernal Legacy will allow you to cast the Hellish Rebuke cantrip as a level 2 spell, which is a cantrip that surrounds your enemies in flames. And lastly, when you reach level 5, you can cast the Darkness spell once with this trait, which is a spell that creates magical darkness that you can find various uses for. For early access classes, the Tiefling goes great with the Warlock because of the +2 to Charisma, and it also just makes sense. Having a fiendish bloodline and then possibly also having a fiend as your patron doesn't get more perfect than that. Playing as a wizard is also not a bad idea. If the Feral Tiefling is offered, your +2 to Charisma changes to a +2 to Dexterity instead, so now the Dexterity-based early access classes will also be great choices, such as the Rogue and a Dexterity-based Fighter. You'll still get that +1 to Intelligence as well with the Feral Tiefling, so if you want to really optimize your choice, be an Arcane Trickster Rogue, which is a rogue that dips into magic, or be an Eldritch Knight Fighter, except instead of being a strength-based fighter like you would with the Githyanki race, be a dexterity-based fighter. The Drow, also known as the Dark Elves, are a subrace of the Elves, but in Baldur's Gate 3 they seem to have their own racial menu. Drow come from the Underdark and are widely regarded as a cruel race and were feared by many, but don't be afraid to step out of the racial stereotypes and become a Drow similar to one known as Drist do Erden. The Drow's racial features include a +1 to Charisma, and although not shown, it's basically a guarantee that they will also receive a +2 to Dexterity. Other racial features include learning the Dancing Lights cantrip, which can help light up a room. Dark Vision, which might even be Superior Dark Vision, which will increase the radius that you can see in darker conditions. You also get Drow Weapon Training, which gives you proficiency with rapiers, short swords, and crossbows. Features not shown but likely to be in the game include Keen Senses, which gives you proficiency in the skill of Perception, Fey Ancestry, which gives you advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and Magic cannot put you to sleep. And the last feature may or may not be in the game, and it's called Trance, which basically allows your Drow to complete a long rest faster than other races. For early access classes for the Drow, the Rogue is a great choice, for you get the +2 to Dexterity, and the Superior Dark Vision is a great fit for a sneaky class. The Warlock can also be an excellent choice, for the boost to Charisma and Dexterity both greatly benefit Warlocks. A Dexterity-based Fighter and the Ranger are both solid choices as well. In fact, the famous Drist do Erden was a Ranger among other classes, and he did just fine for himself. Humans in Faerun were widespread and could be found in most regions. They are full of diversity, creativity, and ambition, and although they might lack specialization, they can excel in many areas. As a human, you get a +1 to all ability scores, which means that if you're using ability score racial bonuses to determine the class that you want to play, you can play any and all classes with a human. If the game does give us the variant human to choose from, you'll be able to add a +1 to 2 ability scores of your choice and also gain a feat, which can be very useful and give your human some specialization. There are no other important racial features to talk about, for the +1 to all ability scores is giving you 6 ability score points, while most of the other classes only get 3, sometimes 4. The human is a well-rounded choice and you can't really go wrong. If the variant human does end up in the game, then that feat choice that you get to make can be very important and beneficial to the class that you play. For those of you that don't know, a feat is like a special capability that you can get, and they can be very beneficial. For example, if you want to play a fighter that wields a big two-handed sword, you might want to pick up the Great Weapon Master feat, which can increase your damage, specifically with two-handed weapons. The most common way to gain a feat is by foregoing an ability score improvement that most classes get at levels 4 and 8, and instead you can take a feat, but as a variant human, you get that feat right away at character creation. Dwarves are a tough tradition-abiding folk, known for their strong martial traditions and beautiful craftsmanship. They are a strong, hardy, and dependable race, and typically possess a wisdom beyond many of the other races, although at times they may be difficult to like for they lack the charm that other races have. If you do manage to befriend a dwarf, they will be one of the most loyal friendships you've ever had. For racial features, all dwarves get a +2 to Constitution, even though it's not shown here. The two subraces of the dwarf will be the hill dwarf, which is on the screen right now, and gives you a +1 to wisdom to go along with your +2 to Constitution. And then the mountain dwarf, which should certainly be in the game and will give you a +2 to strength to go along with the Constitution boost. All dwarves will get dwarven combat, or weapon training, which gives you weapon proficiency in the battle axe, hand axe, light hammer, and warhammer. These are great weapon proficiencies to go with melee-based clerics. You will get Dwarven Resilience, which gives you advantage on saving throws against poison, and gives you resistance against poison damage. Dwarves are tough inside and out. You will gain Artisan Tool proficiencies if in the game, and also Stone Cunning, which gives your dwarf double proficiency in history checks when making intelligence checks related to the origin of stonework. I love stuff like this, and I really hope it's in the game. As the subrace of the Hill Dwarf, you also get Dwarven Toughness, which increases your hit point maximum by 1, and it increases by 1 every time you gain a level. As the Mountain Dwarf subrace, you'll get Dwarven Armor Training, which gives you proficiency with light and medium armor. The +2 to Constitution is an ability score that really isn't wasted by any class, which makes choosing a dwarf a decent choice for most classes, but a great choice for some. As a hill dwarf with the wisdom boost, they can make great clerics, and their natural toughness is always great to have for a class that can be so vital to keep alive in a party. The mountain dwarf subrace with the strength boost makes them excellent choices for the fighter class. Strength and constitution are two very important ability scores for strength-based fighters, and the mountain dwarf is the perfect fit. The cleric can also be a good choice like it was for the hill dwarf if you plan on playing a melee-based frontline cleric. Elves are a long-lived race, found most commonly in places of ethereal beauty, whether ancient forests or silvery spires. They are magical people of otherworldly grace, living in the world but not entirely part of it. In Baldur's Gate 3, there should be at least two subraces of elves, the High Elves and the Wood Elves. The High Elves are heirs of the mystical Feywild and value magic in all its forms, and the Wood Elves see themselves as guardians of the forest. All elves will gain a +2 to dexterity, and if you play as a high elf, you'll also get a +1 to intelligence, while wood elves instead gain a +1 to wisdom. We already talked about what the general race features that all elves get when we went over the Drow, but I will mention them by name here as well. As an elf, you'll have dark vision, keen senses, fey ancestry, and trance. High elves and wood elves also both get elven weapon training, which gives you weapon proficiency in the longsword, short bow, and longbow. These two subraces are great ways to gain proficiency with bows if your class choice doesn't offer that naturally, like with the rogue. Playing as a high elf specifically, you also get to choose a cantrip of your choice from the wizard's spell list, which is pretty nice. And as a wood elf, you'll get Fleet of Foot, which increases your base walking speed, meaning you can move further than most other classes on your turn, and you also get a feature called Mask of the Wild, which basically lets you attempt to use the hide action in situations that other classes might not be able to, such as when lightly obscured by foliage, heavy rain, or mist. The +2 to dexterity that all elves get make all dexterity-based early access classes a solid choice, so rogues, rangers, and dexterity-based fighters all work well with drow, high elves, or wood elves. As a high elf specifically, the early access class of the wizard can work great, for the boost to intelligence helps your spells, and the dexterity will help your armor class. Arcane Trickster rogues and dexterity-based Eldritch Knight fighters are also excellent choices for the High Elf, for dexterity and intelligence can greatly benefit both of those classes and subclass choices. For Wood Elves and Early Access, Rangers are the most obvious great choice, for a Ranger's spellcasting ability is Wisdom. Rogues can benefit from Wisdom as well, for Wisdom deals with the Perception skill, and other skills that rogues should be good at. Also, playing as a dexterity-based fighter will work well with the Wood Elf. The Fleet of Foot Wood Elf feature that we talked about earlier that lets you move further on your turn is a great fit for these agile classes. Half-elves are born through the union of an elf, which is most often a moon elf, and a human. Half-elves often felt alone and isolated, for they are different than most around them. As Larian puts it, they are curious, ambitious, and versatile, and welcome everywhere, but struggle without a community to call their own. As a half-elf, you get a +2 to charisma and also a +1 to 2 other ability scores of your choice, making them excellent choices for any class that benefits from charisma. Gaining a +2 to charisma and also still being able to put +1 into 2 other ability scores of your choice really can give you a solid start. Half-elves also get Fey ancestry and dark vision like full elves do, but should also have a racial feature called skill versatility, which allows you to gain proficiency in 2 skills of your choice. This is an excellent racial feature. If you play any charisma-focused class, it's hard to not want to choose a half-elf because they can be such a great race. For early access, the half-elf is an excellent choice for a warlock, for the warlock's spellcasting ability is charisma. Then you can put the other 2 ability score points into dexterity and constitution. There are no other primary charisma-based classes in early access, at least initially, but the flexibility that you have with the 2 other ability scores makes them a decent choice for basically all of the other early access classes. If I had to choose one more class, I'd say that rogues make excellent half-elves. Half-drow are the offspring of a human and a drow, and the game probably won't tell you this, but they were oftentimes conceived in ways that are not completely mutually agreed upon. Keep in mind that the female drow were generally stronger and more powerful and more evil than male drow, so this isn't just a male issue in this particular case. But this wasn't always the case. Male drow who escaped the Underdark life would oftentimes find a female human spouse and give birth to a half-drow. Most half-drow lived a life of permanent exile due to their drow features, but they are a very clever race. We'll have to wait until early access comes to see the full racial features offered for the half-drow, because half-drow isn't an official D&D 5e race, at least as far as I know, and the racial features that we got to see seem to be incomplete. From what we did get to see, it looks like you'll be able to put a +1 into 2 ability scores of your choice, which is similar to the half-elf, and you should also get another ability score boost, maybe in charisma because drow are naturally charismatic, but I'm not sure. You'll also get dark vision in the dancing lights cantrip, like the drow gets as well. As far as classes go, like I said, we really have to wait to see the full racial features, but it seems like the half-drow will offer flexibility like the half-elf does, so many classes will likely work well with this race. Halflings are known as the good folk among other races, for they are joyful by nature and very friendly. They typically stand around 3 feet tall and referred to humans as the big folk. There are 2 subraces of the halfling, the lightfoot halfling, which we can see on the screen, and then the stout halfling, which should most certainly be in the game. As a halfling, you'll get a +2 to dexterity, and if you choose the lightfoot halfling, you'll also get a +1 to charisma. If you play as a stout halfling, you'll get a +1 to constitution. All halflings will get a racial feature called halfling nimbleness, which lets you move through the space of any creature that is of a size larger than yours. But remember, you're still open to getting hit by opportunity attacks if you do not use the disengage action. All halflings also get a feature called lucky, which is the bread and butter of racial features. Lucky makes it so that if you roll a 1 on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll the die. Your chance of rolling a 1 is only 5%, but over the course of 100 hours plus of a playthrough, 5% happens quite a lot, and lucky is going to save you. All halflings also get a feature called Brave, which gives you advantage on saving throws against being frightened. You also get a new feature called Mercurial Step, which we'll have to wait and see what that is. As a Lightfoot halfling specifically, you also get Naturally Stealthy, which lets you attempt to hide, even when you're obscured only by a creature that is at least 1 size larger than you. We'll have to see how that works in the game if it's even in it. And as a Stout halfling, you'll get an extra feature called Stout Resilience, which gives you advantage on saving throws against poison, and you have resistance against poison damage as well. For early access classes, you're looking at all the dexterity-based classes as your best choices. For the Lightfoot halfling, rogues are naturally a great choice. Warlock also fits very well with this race, for they benefit from the charisma and dexterity. For the stout halfling, you can also be a great rogue, but rangers or dexterity-based fighters become excellent choices as well. No one should be complaining about some extra constitution to boost their HP. And once again, I'll bring up the halfling's racial feature called Lucky, for this feature alone can make it a tempting pick for many classes. Hopefully that helps you guys get a head start and knowledge when you create your first character in early access. The Panel from Hell live show on Baldur's Gate 3 will be happening later this month, and I'll be sure to do an update video if necessary. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I do all sorts of content on this channel, ranging from comedy videos to live streams to game reviews to animal videos to baseball videos to soccer videos to football videos to chalkboard videos to hopscotch videos to Baldur's Gate videos. And probably nobody made it this far in the video. If you did, you better comment below, because all that was bullshit. I don't do videos on all that stuff. I do a good amount of videos on that stuff. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Until next time.